Hi guys, Maikeru here. This is my loot from 10 hours of Nightmare Creatures. Nightmare Creatures turned out to be such good money and pretty decent magic experience at the same time. Nightmares are around 6 to 7 mil GP an hour pretty consistently, and an amazing Slayer task whenever you get them. I'd advise getting Children of Mar done and unlocking these as soon as possible for that Slayer grind. They're also actually not even that bad money to farm off task as well. In this video I'll quickly talk about the Nightmare Creatures, and then I'm going to compare 5 hours on task and 5 hours off task worth of loot. So let's get into this video. You guys voted for these in the latest straw poll. Thank you to all 285 of you that voted, and there'll be a new straw poll in the description with a couple of new options for you guys to choose from for the next Loot from X series video and what I'm going to kill for loot next. For Nightmares as a whole, they're a pretty easy creature to kill, and they only have one main mechanic, which I'll talk about in 1 second, and they lead for some pretty easy and fast kills. The only mechanic you need to watch out for is that after a little while of fighting them, after they've auto attacked you a couple of times, they'll start charging up some type of Kamehameha ball thing in their hands, and then they'll throw it at you. As they throw it at you, you need to switch to protect from range, so it deals a tiny amount of damage compared to 3 to 4k if you didn't switch to protect from range. You can soul split these all the time until they're about to hit you with this ball, then you switch to protect from range and then back to soul split. As you can see here, if you don't switch to protect from range, they do hit you for 3 to 4k in 2 big hits, so it is advised to switch to protect from range. Hey, Nightmare Gauntlets! Easy money in my pocket, and look at that rainbow beam. As for the setup for Nightmare Creatures, I take 2 Holy Overloads, some Prayer Flasks and some Shark just as backup emergency food in case you need it. I take Earth Runes and Air Runes because they're weak to Earth spells. You might as well use their weakness against them to be able to kill the most in the hour. I also take Magic Notepaper for their drops. You can take Alch Runes here as well, and they do work. As for the gear setup, I take Anima Core of Seren as it's tier 80 power armor and doesn't degrade, and I don't feel like you need tier 80 armor here, so it's a very good choice. If you're on Slayer tasks, you can substitute the helm out for a Slayer helm. I take my Luck of the Dwarves because you can never be too lucky, and I can't really be bothered while doing Slayer and things to really try hard with a ring switch, although you can take Ring of Vigor and things like that here, and it will speed up kills. Take the best cape and the best amulet you can. Any aura is good. I typically use Penance and Vampirism. Take the best staff you can. I'm going to take the Nox staff here as it is my best staff. You can also take the Spring Cleaner as it can break down the rune claws and things like that quite often and fits nicely in the pocket slot. Pretty simple setup for Nightmare Creatures. While doing my 5 hours of Nightmare Creatures on task, I managed to get 3 Nightmare Gauntlet drops, which is absolutely awesome, and we made 36.7 mil. This works out to be 7.3 mil GP an hour, which is a very high GP rate for a single monster, and it just goes to show why Slayer is such good money. The top tier drops are the Rune Two-Handers, the Dragon Battle Axes, Elder Energy, coins, and things of that nature. The coins actually add up so quickly, and they drop quite a lot at a time, and as you're picking them up, you don't actually realise how much you'll get in 5 hours. And they end up giving you around 700k coins an hour, which is pretty high just for pure cash drops. So as for the GP an hour without being on task, it's quite a lot less, but that's only due to having 1 Nightmare Gauntlet drop instead of 3. Because the Nightmare Gauntlets are doubled on task, you have a much higher chance of actually receiving a drop while on Slayer task, although you can get them off task. As for the main consistent drops, they all stayed the same, with Dragon Battle Axes, Rune Two-Handers, coins, Elder Energy and the runes and stuff all being top on the money making over the 5 hours. Nightmares are pretty consistent with their drops, and the Nightmare Gauntlets aren't too rare, so they make for a very good way to actually make money even when off task. This is around 5.6 mil an hour, which is still very decent. Now time for an on and off task loot breakdown. 5 hours of Nightmares on task total loot was 36,769,277 GP, as you saw in the first price check. This made them an average of 7,353,000 GP an hour. 7.3 million GP an hour for a Slayer task is pretty awesome if you ask me. Not to mention a Slayer task would be over within around an hour every time. As for 5 hours of Nightmares off task, and their total loot came to 28,434,858 GP. That makes the average gold per hour 5,686,000 GP. 5.6 million GP an hour while off task is still really good, as they are quite good magic experience alongside some decent money and pretty chill. Nightmare Gauntlet's drop chance is doubled on task, so that helps explain why I got more on task than off task. And I probably would advise sticking to doing them on task unless you really needed money. The kills per hour I was getting on average on task was 180 to 200, which was typically a whole task. The kills per hour off task was around 160 to 180 because I didn't have my Slayer helm and my Tusker's Wrath ability. This means if I did 10 hours of loot without any gauntlet drops at all, I would have made 4,810,163 GP. This would then make the gold per hour 4.8 million GP. This is taking into consideration not getting any drops at all. That's pretty damn good if you ask me. Without getting any gauntlet drops, you can make 4.8 mil GP an hour doing Nightmares. All in all, I would advise getting Children of Mar done, unlocking these creatures for your Slayer grind. They are definitely worth the hassle of doing all of those quests. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Give it a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new for future content. And until next time, see ya.